let's cut through the noise and get real. There's a reason, a glaring, unignorable reason, we've carved out the concept of the Pikme in modern dating culture. A Pikme isn't just some cutesy label for a woman who's trying to seem compatible with men. No, she's a product of a brutal, unspoken truth. Men hold power through options, and women are forced to navigate a battlefield where attention is currency, validation is oxygen, and competition is coded into our DNA. Let's unpack this layer by layer, because this isn't about shaming or glorifying. It's about understanding the raw mechanics of human attraction, power, and the games we play without even realizing it. Men have options. Let's start there. Men naturally have options, just as women do. But here's the kicker. A man's options aren't just a list of potential partners. They're a leverage point. When a man has options, he controls the rhythm of the interaction. He sets the tone. He dictates the pace. Why? Because a woman's brain, whether she admits it or not, is wired to register his choices as a measure of his value. If he could walk away, if he could choose someone else, suddenly his attention becomes a scarce resource. And scarcity? Scarcity is catnip to the human psyche. Let's paint a picture. Imagine a man who's attractive, charismatic, and critically unattached. He's not desperate. He's not clinging to the first woman who glances his way. He's relaxed, engaging, indifferent. Now, imagine a woman observing him. Her brain isn't just processing his smile or his jokes, it's calculating. Could he choose me? Or is he already considering someone else? This isn't insecurity, this is evolution. For millennia, women have competed for mates who could provide security, status, and survival advantages. Fast forward to 2023, and the stakes have shifted, but the wiring remains. A man with options isn't just a potential partner. He's a litmus test for a woman's own desirability. Here's where it gets messy. When a woman senses a man has options, her behavior shifts. She might test him, not out of malice, but out of a primal need to confirm his interest is genuine. If he's got options, why would he pick her? Is she special? Is she worth the sacrifice of his freedom? This dance isn't rational. It's visceral. It's why women drop hints, play hard to get, or suddenly become aloof when they sense competition. It's not manipulation, it's survival. Because in a world where men can walk away, being picked isn't just romantic. It's validating. It's proof of worth. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, competition between women. Women don't just want men. They want men other women want. This isn't petty jealousy. It's social proof. If another woman desires him, he must have value. This is why a man's options don't just affect his dating life. They warp the entire social ecosystem around him. Women who'd otherwise ignore him suddenly perk up when they sense rivalry. It's why a guy who's lukewarm on paper becomes irresistible when he's surrounded by admirers. His indifference becomes a challenge. His attention becomes a trophy. Let's take this out of the abstract and into the real world. Picture a park. A man approaches a woman, let's call her Sarah. He's friendly, asking harmless questions. Where do you work? You look like you've got an interesting job. Sarah's polite but detached. Short answers. No follow-up questions. She's not rude, just meh. Now enter Jessica. Jessica's been watching from a bench, sipping her latte. She's intrigued. Her gaze lingers a beat too long. She smiles when he glances her way. Sarah notices. Suddenly, the dynamic shifts. Sarah's brain isn't just processing the man anymore. It's processing Jessica. Why is she looking at him? Is he someone worth noticing? The man's value skyrockets, not because he's changed, but because Jessica's interest has reframed him. Now, Sarah's indifference morphs into curiosity. She leans in, laughs louder, touches her hair. Why? Because competition triggers scarcity mindset. If he's wanted, he's worth wanting. Even if Sarah wasn't initially interested, she'll now entertain him. Not because she's suddenly attracted, but because losing to Jessica feels like a blow to her social currency. This isn't hypothetical. It's human nature. Women are conditioned from childhood to compete for grades, for looks, for approval. By adulthood, that competition shifts to partners. It's why women subtly size each other up at bars, why Instagram likes from men become passive-aggressive battlegrounds, and why a man's past relationships are dissected like case studies. When a man has options, he becomes a mirror reflecting a woman's own insecurities and ambition. Can I win him? Do I deserve him? What does it say about me if I don't? But here's the twist. Women hate admitting this. We've been sold a narrative of empowerment, that we don't need male validation, that we're above these games, yet the pick-me label persists. Why? Because it's a weapon. Women created the term to shame other women for competing too openly. Calling someone a pick-me isn't about the man, it's about silencing rivals. It's a way to say, you're trying too hard, you're desperate, you're less than. But peel back the layers and the truth is clear. The women hurling pick-me insults are often the ones most terrified of losing the game. Let's get even messier. What happens when a man embraces his options? He gains power, not just over women, but over his own life. A man who knows he can walk away negotiates from a place of strength. He doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't cling. This isn't about arrogance, it's about self-respect. And women feel that energy. It's magnetic. It's why bad boys thrive while nice guys finish last. A bad boy isn't inherently better, he's just unapologetic about his options. He doesn't need validation, so women scramble to give it to him. But let's not romanticize this. A man with options can also be a man who's emotionally unavailable, commitment phobic, or outright toxic. The point isn't that options make men good, it's that they make men powerful. And power in the dating world is the ultimate aphrodisiac. Women might complain about players, but they're still drawn to them. Why? Because a player's indifference signals abundance, and abundance triggers a primal fear of missing out. If I don't lock him down, someone else will. Now let's flip the script. What about women with options? Society shames them. A woman with multiple suitors is labeled a hoe, a tease, a pick-me. But a man with options? He's a stud, a bachelor, a king. This double standard isn't accidental. It's rooted in centuries of patriarchal conditioning where male promiscuity was celebrated and female sexuality was policed. Women are damned if they do, damned if they don't. Embrace your options? You're a pick-me. Reject them? You're a prude. This brings us to the heart of the issue, control. When a man has options, he controls the narrative. He decides when to engage, when to pull back, when to commit. Women, meanwhile, are forced to react to his choices, his attention, his whims. This isn't a conspiracy, it's a byproduct of biology and socialization. Men are taught to lead, women to follow. Men are encouraged to sow wild oats, women to guard their value. The result? A power imbalance disguised as romance. But here's the paradox. Women want men with options. Not because we're masochists, but because a man who's desired by others validates our own taste. It's the same reason we buy products with 5-star reviews or restaurants with long lines. Social proof is a hell of a drug. When a man is wanted, we assume he's worth wanting. Even if he's mediocre, the collective desire of others upgrades him in our minds. Let's circle back to the pick-me. She's not a villain, she's a symptom of a world where women are taught to derive worth from male attention, where competition is inevitable, and where winning a man feels like a survival instinct. The problem isn't the pick-me, it's the system that forces her to exist. A system where women are pitted against each other, where self-worth is tied to being chosen, and where men's options are a form of social capital. But let's not absolve men entirely. Men play this game too. They know the power of options. They know that hinting at other prospects makes women try harder. It's not evil, it's strategy. And women, whether we admit it or not, reward this strategy. We chase men who make us feel insecure. We romanticize the ones who keep us guessing. We equate anxiety with passion. Here's the brutal truth. Until women stop equating their worth with being picked, the Pikme cycle will continue. We'll keep competing, keep hustling for validation, keep tearing each other down. Because deep down, we've been conditioned to believe that a man's choice is the ultimate judge of our value. It's why a woman can be a CEO, a Nobel laureate, a genius, and still feel like a failure if she's single. So, what's the solution? It's not demonizing men for having options or shaming women for competing. It's dismantling the belief that being chosen by someone else defines our worth. It's teaching women to see their value as inherent, not transactional. It's encouraging men to embrace vulnerability instead of hiding behind indifference. But let's be real. This isn't a TED Talk. This is the messy, uncomfortable reality of human connection. Let's talk about high school, because that's where this all starts. High school is a petri dish of social dynamics, the cliques, the hierarchies, the endless drama. It's a microcosm of adult dating. Girls learn early that their value is tied to male attention. The pretty girl with the quarterback boyfriend isn't just lucky, she's validated. The quiet girl with glasses? She's invisible until she transforms herself, molds herself into what boys want, straightens her hair, laughs at their jokes, pretends to like football. She becomes a Pikme, not because she's desperate, but because she's been taught that's the only way to matter. Fast forward to adulthood, and the game hasn't changed. The stakes are just higher. Instead of prom queens, we have Instagram influencers. Instead of love notes, we have DMs. But the core dynamic remains. Women competing for male attention in a world that rewards men for having options and punishes women for wanting them. Now, let's address the meme. You know the one, the meme Clara tried to pull up, the one that perfectly encapsulates this chaos. It's probably a split-screen image. On one side, a man surrounded by women, smirking. Caption, when you have options. On the other, a woman alone, glaring. Caption, when you realize you're the option. It's crude, reductive, and painfully accurate because it highlights the asymmetry. A man with options is a conqueror. A woman with options is a cautionary tale. But here's what the meme misses. The man with options isn't necessarily happy. He's just powerful, and power without purpose is empty. He might sleep around, collect numbers, bask in attention, but none of it fills the void, because validation from others is a temporary high. The same goes for the woman. She might win the man, but if her self-worth is tied to his choice, she's built her house on sand. Let's talk about the ick, that sudden repulsion women feel when a man acts too eager. The guy who texts back immediately, who plans elaborate dates, who declares his feelings too soon. Women call it the ick, but really, it's the recoil from perceived scarcity. If he's too available, he must not have options. And if he doesn't have options, he's low value. It's cruel, but it's instinctual. A man who seems desperate triggers our fear of settling, because if no one else wants him, why should we? This is why men are told to play it cool, to delay texts, to act aloof, to mimic abundance even when they feel scarcity. It's not about dishonesty, it's about self-preservation. Because the second a man reveals his hand, he loses leverage. Women might call this games, but it's just survival. A man who hides his neediness survives. A man who shows it gets devoured. But let's not pretend women are innocent here. Women play games too. The intentional delays, the vague responses, the accidental bumps into X's, it's all designed to signal abundance. See? Others want me. You should too. But here's the rub. The more women play these games, the more they feed into the same toxic system they claim to hate. So, Where does this leave us? Stuck in a loop. Men pretending not to care, women pretending not to notice. Both sides locked in a dance of feigned indifference, terrified of being the first to blink. It's exhausting, it's unsustainable, but it's human. Let's end with a radical idea. What if we stopped glorifying options? What if we celebrated intentionality instead? A man who chooses one woman isn't weak, he's secure. A woman who stops competing isn't a loser, she's evolved. But this requires a seismic shift. It means men embracing vulnerability over bravado. It means women building self-worth outside male validation. It means rewriting the rules entirely. But until then, the Pikme will endure. She'll keep hustling, keep competing, keep tearing herself apart for a scrap of attention. Because in a world where options equal power, being picked isn't just a goal, it's a lifeline. And until we break the cycle, we'll all keep playing the game, even as we hate ourselves for it.